here we are at the end of 2016, and it's been a long 6 years since the release of NBA 2K11. If you've been paying attention, a lot about the world has changed since then, but one thing that hasn't changed is the general consensus that NBA 2K11 is still the greatest basketball game of all time. There's been 6 2Ks released since then, and of course opinions vary. Some people like 13, some people like 14, but if you look around, the general feeling is that 2K11 has still not been matched yet, and you know what, after looking back at the game, I tend to agree. Now, of course, technology advances and the games today are obviously a lot better than the games released 6 years ago. However, we're judging these games based off of what they were doing for their time. So obviously when we say NBA 2K11 is the greatest basketball game of all time, we're not saying we could pick it up today in 2016 and have it feel better or look better than 17. However, if we were to compare how we felt playing both games in their prime, one would feel better than the other. And today I'm going to give you 6 reasons I found why NBA 2K11 still stands as the greatest basketball game for its time. Number 6, the little things. I figured this was a good place to start because upon opening NBA 2K11, I scrolled down the menu to first check it out, and what I found was there was just a lot of little things that by themselves don't actually make the game great, but when you start adding them up, they really do. They're just nice gestures that 2K put in the game, and they added on to all the other modes the game had to really make this the greatest 2K they ever made. The My Jordan section was the first thing I noticed, and obviously every game since then has had Jordans in them, but it was pretty cool to see these presented the way they were, where you had to unlock them, and you started off with some of them, but you had to unlock most of them through these challenges. And not only that, but you could equip them to any player in the game, including your My Player, and a lot of them had all these little attribute boosts. So some of them boosted your shooting, some of them boosted your ball handling, and it was just pretty cool to see that the shoes had a reason to be worn other than the fact that they were Jordans. Another thing I noticed was something I actually completely forgot about, and it was the fact that this game had a lot of celebrities in it. Nowadays you get like 1 or 2 celebrities, if that, in the game, but back then for the blacktop mode you had a long list of them, including stars like Snoop Dogg and Drake. And Snoop Dogg's face scan was A1. I went and looked at it and it was very believable. This was a fun little add-on for if you were going to be playing 2-player back when going to each other's house and playing 2-player in the physical person was still a thing. And then inside their options they also had a mode called Situations, which was helpful for the real 2K heads who love to, practice at the game. And Situations was basically where you could put yourself in any situation that you could possibly be in, start from that point and play the game. So if you wanted to practice what you would do down 3 points with 5 seconds left, you could go and set that up and do that. I'm not sure how many people use this, but I'm pretty sure the people who were trying to master the game probably did, because it was nice to have a game plan going into these things. And again, this is just a nice option to have. The 2K Reel Maker, which is something I have not seen in a while, but I imagine this was extremely helpful to YouTubers like Shady, and back then there was another guy called Messenger Matt. And the Reel Maker was basically a place where you could have all your saved replays and you could basically just edit a film out of them. I myself used to use this little tool for NBA 2K9 actually, back before I ever knew I was going to be a YouTuber, and I used to use it to make these little blacktop mixes that I'm pretty sure don't exist anymore. However, the nice camera angles and things that they had, it was just a really cool feature to have in the game, and I was glad 2K took the time to put it in there. Now I haven't looked, but I'm 99% sure this doesn't exist in the other games, and it's the VIP viewer. Now I know every game has the VIP viewer, but this one is so in-depth because when I opened it, it still remembers the last game I played about 5 years ago on there. It has all my stats from what I did in NBA 2K11. It's basically a rundown of the player I used to be when I played the game, my averages, my tendencies, and this was really cool because I caught myself looking at this for just probably about 10 minutes looking at things I didn't even remember I did. It remembers the teams I played with, who I won the most with, what I tended to do. This is a really awesome gesture, and of course when I open it again 5 years later, I'm gonna be like, damn, this is pretty cool. And for the last little thing, it's just the presentation of the game. Now I don't know if you guys noticed, but NBA 2K11 is arguably the best looking 2K for the last gen. The last gen basically stretches from NBA 2K7 up to NBA 2K13, and I don't know if I was the only one who felt this way, but it seemed that after 2K11 the 2Ks didn't look any better, they just sort of looked different. Like 2K13 has a different look to it, but 2K11 just, to me, it still kind of has a better look. The way they would present the player of the game was pretty awesome, and also this game still has the most accurate looking Michael Jordan to date, and that's saying something because we're 6 years removed from the game. Number 5, gameplay. Now, a lot has happened in my life in 6 years. Mind you, I was in the 10th grade when this game came out. As a matter of fact, I was just starting the 10th grade, so I'm not even going to sit and pretend like I remember everything about this game and how it used to feel. However, I do remember this being the most balanced 2K in terms of gameplay. Here's what I'm trying to say. When I turn on 2Ks in previous years and this year, I always feel like there's some outstanding issue with one side of the ball in terms of offense and defense. My most notable example is in NBA 2K13's Hall of Fame mode, where you could do absolutely nothing to stop the Hall of Fame computer from making every shot they took at the end of the shot clock. Not only that, but there was the issue where you couldn't block dunks and you just basically couldn't play defense. Once they got into the paint, it was a dunk every time. That's a frequent problem that I had with NBA 2K9, and in NBA 2K17, although they patched the game and they've made it playable, it still has terrible defense in terms of AI. Like, sometimes I feel like the AI has no clue what it's doing. It doesn't double team like crazy like it used to, but it will still do things that just don't make it challenging like the old 2Ks were. But in 2K11, I just don't remember these issues. I remember popping in the game, and of course there were some patches, but afterwards I don't remember, playing the game the whole year feeling like it was just incomplete or there was just something missing. I felt like we had a good balanced game on both sides, and that made it enjoyable to play no matter who you were playing with, whether you were playing against a computer, you were playing against a friend, or you were playing online. It just felt balanced all the way through. That's all I really have to say as far as gameplay, because like I said, it has been a long 6 years and I don't remember everything about it, but if there is one thing that stuck out, it's definitely that balance. Number 4, the My Career mode. My Career has basically been 2K's greatest focus ever since they introduced the mode back in NBA 2K10, and honestly they've almost focused on it to a fault. But in NBA 2K11, I remember how great of an experience and how great of a jump they took over from the last year, which was NBA 2K10. And when I opened it up again, I remembered why I loved this mode back then. First of all, there was no such thing as VC, aka virtual currency, back then, which is basically, I wouldn't say ruined the mode, but it's definitely made it worse, because VC made this game pretty much a pay to play game, so you can go out and buy it and complete your player within the first day of having the game, which isn't really as cool as back when you used to have to grind for your My Player, and there was a lot of things for you to do so. So as soon as you opened it back then, you were dropped in the Summer League trying to make the NBA. You had a lot of drills that were pretty cool to go through, various ball handling drills, shooting drills, defensive drills, and you were really trying to work your way up to make your player better, really the way you would have to do it if you were playing in real life. And it just made it an overall rewarding experience once you made it to the NBA, got to play for your favorite team, and try to lead them to a championship. I probably would have enjoyed a park mode back then a lot more, because there was no way to buy VC, and as far as I know, you couldn't buy skill points either, therefore you couldn't just buy your player. And virtual currency also made 2K very greedy, because they make everything super duper expensive, so that it's not really even worth it to put all these hours in playing the game to try to earn VC and make your player better. Sometimes it is enticing to just go buy the virtual currency, and that's why a lot of people do it. I do know that NBA 2K11 also had crew mode, and that was pretty much people's favorite mode in 2K ever. I don't know why it took them so long to even get something like it back. I didn't play the crew, so I can't really speak to it, but it did look pretty cool. For the last thing about My Player, 2K also had this really cool thing called the 2K Insider, and this was basically the guy that I guess mentored you or whatever. He was the voice that would pop up every time you opened your My Career screen, and while I was making this video, I just left it sitting for a little while because I was busy, and then out of nowhere he just popped up with some random fact about how Jason Kidd, I can't remember what he said. He said something, something I didn't know about Jason Kidd. Again, that probably would have fallen under the little things that add up, but that was just pretty cool to have the 2K Insider always there spitting some knowledge to you, and it was just a cool gesture. Number 3, the soundtrack. 2K has honestly had some pretty cool soundtracks since 2K11, and they've also had some pretty terrible ones, aka NBA 2K15. However, most people agree that NBA 2K11 is still the greatest soundtrack for the 2K series of all time, and I really agree. The reason I agree is because this is the only game I can tell you where I took most of the songs that were on the game and had them loaded on my phone so I could listen to them while I'm in the gym. If I enjoy a song enough to listen to it in the gym, then that is a really good experience to have in a video game, because it just makes it stick with you years later. I don't know the list off the top of my head, but Ron Artest even had a good song in there called Champions. Snoop Dogg's intro song was a pretty cool add-on to the game. Still, one of my favorite songs today is Crown of Thorns, and I didn't know about that song before NBA 2K11. I don't know every song off the top of my head. I will be scrolling through this part in the video so you can see the songs and probably reminisce yourself, but one thing I do remember is leaving it on the menu just so I could hear the songs play while I was on my phone or whatever in between games. It was just a really cool thing to have a video game where the soundtrack was every bit as enjoyable as the game itself. And I never found myself just cutting the soundtrack completely off. I can remember many times during NBA 2K15 where I just disabled the soundtrack because I was just tired of hearing that trash, but 2K11, they really had it back then. Number 2, the formal introduction of Legends. One of the reasons I think everyone has a hard time letting NBA 2K11 go is because they'll never be able to replace the feeling of actually being able to play with Legends in a modern 2K. Of course, every 2K since then has had Legends, but you'll never be able to replace the feeling of the first time you got to play with Clyde Drexler or Karl Malone and Patrick Ewing. And you know what's even funnier? A lot of people don't know, but NBA 2K actually had legends in this a long time before 2K11. So as early as NBA 2K7, you could play with guys like Magic Johnson and I think even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There was actually a lot of legends in the game for a very long time, and people just didn't know it because they weren't actually on teams. They were like on the old all-star teams, and people didn't know that you could trade them to teams and actually play with them inside seasons, and I didn't know that either, honestly. But when 2K actually formally introduced them and gave them their own teams like the Showtime Lakers and the Dynasty Bulls, that was just a really cool feeling. And although I feel like people have kind of lost their love for it and they don't use it as much, pretty much taking it for granted, it was a really cool thing to have in the game back then, and I'm pretty sure that was a big advertising point and a lot of us used them. My personal favorite thing to do was to put these guys in a free agent pool and then assign them to random, modern teams so I could play them in a season. Back then it was called the Association and not My League, and that made it a ton of fun. Being that this was the first time I or most people could do that, we're always going to remember 2K11 in a special light, but I know something we're going to remember it being even more special for. Number 1, the Jordan Challenge. So as you can see by now, NBA 2K11 is filled with these special little gems that make the game so special to us. However, one thing they still have yet to top is what happened when you first put the game into your console, and that was seeing Michael Jordan run out to the tunnel to play in the first game of the NBA Finals. This really probably should have went under presentation, but it just showed how NBA 2K was really willing to go the extra mile to make a great game back then. It was a great introduction to, again, the formal introduction of legends and Michael Jordan into the game, because Michael hadn't been in a 2K since like what, NBA 2K3 since then. And after you were done with the intro of the game, you were free to go do as you pleased, and when you did that, you went and found the Jordan Challenge, which was 10 of Michael Jordan's best moments that you could recreate pretty accurately. There was a set of goals that you had to complete with him. It was a very challenging mode, considering I don't even think they gave you enough time to do them. I'm not sure if you could adjust a time limit on them or not. However, it was really fun trying to score 60 and trying to do the same things that he did in the finals. It's actually something that people begged for in NBA 2K17 because they were making the game apparently based off Kobe Bryant, and I'm not sure how they got away without making the Kobe Bryant challenge, but hopefully they stick that in 2K one day, because that's something that made 2K11 so special. This mode was really a beautiful gesture, and it really even made people who got to see Michael Jordan play want to come and play 2K because they could play through things that they actually lived through and watched. One thing I've never been able to wrap my head around is the fact that the NBA 2K11 Michael Jordan still looks more accurate than any of the next gen Jordans we've gotten yet, and I just don't understand that. Anyways, this was just the icing on the cake in the fact that they even had Michael Jordan in the game, and when you were done with that, you could go to Michael Jordan creating a legend mode, and creating a legend is something I see that's really missed by the community. It's basically where you could start Michael's career completely over with a team that was actually a modern team at the time. So I remember I actually had my Michael Jordan playing for the Nuggets, and that was pretty cool because you could try to rewrite his career for a different franchise, and it was just something else to do. And by this time, with everything else I've explained in the game, you can really get a good idea of why people still think this was the best 2K of all time. When you go through and add up the gameplay, the legends, the my player mode, the soundtrack, the Michael Jordan mode, and then sprinkle the little things on top of it, I can honestly say that 2K has yet to top this product, and to be honest, I don't know if they ever will. There's still things I left off on this look back because the servers aren't up, so there's certain parts I can't access, but you used to be able to do little playoff modes with your friends. So online, you could start an online playoff tournament between 16 people, which I actually did a couple of times, and that was very fun. There was player DNA, so back then you could just download a player to your roster. Instead of downloading an entire roster, it was pretty useful to be able to download one player to whatever you were trying to create. Again, that was under the little things, I just forgot to mention it. But when you add up everything, I think this 2K still gives you the most bang for its buck, and it was definitely the greatest of its time. In my personal opinion, the closest they've gotten to topping this game was NBA 2K16. I had a ton of fun with 2K16, but I know everyone else has a different opinion because honestly, everyone has a different favorite 2K. It just seems like the general consensus is that 2K11 still sits at the top. And this is the part where I ask you guys to chime in. What do you think is the greatest 2K of all time? Is it actually 2K11 or is it another one? I know I've heard a lot of people say 14. 13 is actually a popular favorite amongst a lot of people as well, but I do see 11 pop up more than anything, so I definitely like to hear from you guys which one you think is the best and why. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope this video made you a little bit nostalgic, and maybe you'll go pick up 2K11 and just remember what the game used to be. I'm Dom2K, and I'll see you guys in the next video.